Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Even Your Dynasty show. On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about whether or not the Giants should trade Camilo Doval this offseason. I know I'm about a week late with this video. They floated it out there about a week ago that there were some teams that are interested in Camilo. And I mean, why wouldn't there be teams that are interested in him? As far as, this is a guy that for 2+ seasons was one of the premier relievers in baseball. He's inexpensive. There's a lot of things to like with his stuff. The fastball guy throws 102, but he also can back it up with just a nasty slider that guys struggle to put in play. But, 2024 showed a lot of regression. So we're going to dive in on this topic to see, does it make sense, what it might take to actually make sense for them to move him, or if he's a guy that maybe they just should try and fresh start elsewhere. So I'm going to kind of go into that. But before we do that, we did reach 1,000 subscribers. I mentioned on the previous show, which means we are doing a live show this Friday, and we're going to do we are doing our giveaways this Friday. Now, there is a poll in the community as well as on my X account out right now. If you guys would rather us do all three items in the giveaway or all three items in the live show on Friday, or if you guys would rather we spread them out one item a week for the next 3 weeks on all of our live shows. So make sure you vote in there what you guys would prefer to do. And we will be doing those items on Friday. All of them are listed out in the community chat as well as on my X. So go check that out and vote. And for those of you that want to participate in that and have the option of winning, all you have to do is be subscribed to the channel. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all that good stuff. And then you'll just have to drop a comment during the live stream. So it'll be at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. Come check us out there. So starting off with Camilo, 2021 through 2023, I combined all 3 seasons there. He pitched in 166 games, 162 and a third innings pitched, 2.77 ERA, 69 saves out of 84 opportunities, which, really, he went 3 for 6 in 2021 where he was first kind of taken over, but that comes out to 83%. He had an 11.3 strikeouts per 9 and a 3.6 walks per 9, came out to a 1.16 whip. Then in 2024, he coming off the All-Star appearance in 2023, he did leak oil a little bit at the end of 2023, but I think we all still had confidence that he was going to still be a really, really good closer. 62 games, 59 innings pitched, he had a 4.88 ERA, 23 saves, 82.1%. So that actually the success rate didn't drop tremendously there. 11.9 Ks per 9. That's probably because the only way he seemed to be able to get anyone out was by striking them out. And a 5.9 walks per 9, came out to a 1.58 whip. So he pretty much regressed across the board other than the strikeouts per 9. But when you're facing more hitters, it's more opportunity to strike guys out. So it didn't really change tremendously there. And he had a lot of things that go beyond the numbers. I think we all kind of saw it materialize this last season where the pitch clock clearly messes with him. He doesn't hold runners on. I think he had trouble at times just kind of being a professional, where they talk about his inability to kind of like get up for the moment unless it's a tight game at the end. And he just would come in and be a little bit too laissez-faire and give up a bunch of hits and runs and put free base runners on when they're up 3-4 runs. And it just, that kind of stuff got really frustrating watching him. And, obviously it culminated in him getting demoted to AAA, where they told him, go down and throw strikes. Like, you got to get in the zone. And he came back and he looked a little better when he did return. Still had some of the same issues, but he did look a little bit better, I felt like, when he came back. But it's pretty clear, like, Ryan Walker's the closer going forward. So this is a guy that I know he probably wants to be a closer, and I'm sure if Camilo had his way, he maybe would get traded to a team that wants to use him as a closer. But there are some reasons why you don't move him right now. Let's just start off with the obvious reason. It's the value for him. His value right now is significantly lower than his value was a year ago. And the Giants still have control on him for 3 more seasons because he's in his first year of arbitration eligibility. So If you trade him right now, you're trading him at his lowest value, like to date, I guess you could put it. Because now that's not to say it couldn't continue to get lower, but right now when you're talking about a guy that was an all-star a year ago and had back-to-back really good seasons and finished 2021 incredibly strong, like his value is super high. Now it's just super low. So I'm sure there's teams that are interested in him because a lot of teams probably view him as a buy low candidate. There's a lot of teams that lack closers that probably look at a guy like Camilo Doval and think we can give up barely anything and get a guy that has the potential to be an all-star as our closer. So it makes sense that teams are trying to get him. But if you're the Giants, to me, like you can't sell low on the guy. It makes zero sense unless he is just a huge clubhouse cancer and a distraction. And you just feel like you've got to get him out the door, which, I'm not in the clubhouse. I don't want to speculate guys are those kinds of people, but there were some rumblings that a lot of people didn't like his quote antics last season. So, there's a possibility that might be the case with Camilo, that they just view him as a guy that they need to get out of the building. So we'll see there. But unless that's the case, to me, it makes no sense to move him. Like this is a guy that you're better off keeping him for half a season, see if he can throw the ball really well for at least the first half, and then turning around and trying to move him then. Because especially at a deadline where teams are trying to compete and there's teams coming in down the stretch that might be looking for a closer, because there's always teams needing bullpen help at the deadline that are thinking they're contenders. If there's a team looking for late inning reliever or closer, he could potentially have a ton of value if he comes out and throws the ball well in the first half. The other part of that is if you're the Giants, you kind of look at the way your roster is built, and the way you're going to probably be able to compete is by shortening games and having a really, really good bullpen. And that kind of involves Doval doing his thing and being a really good reliever again. So you almost need to rely on him, especially early in the season, unless you plan on going out and getting like a Tanner Scott. Like you kind of need Camilo Doval right now as it currently stands with your pen if you have any intention on competing. Now, that said, while I would lean no, you don't really move a guy like Camilo Doval right now at his lowest value. If a team is willing to pay you closer to what his value would have been going into last offseason, if some team likes him enough that they're willing to overpay for Camilo Doval, by all means, go ahead and trade him at that point. Because I personally, I'm not a huge believer in him. I love his stuff. There's just too many things that add up with him in the modern game with the pitch clock and the, easier for base runners to steal bags and all those things. I just don't want in a guy that I have pitching in games, late in games, in tight games, giving away free 90 feet, giving away tons of free base runners, and just seeming like he has too many instances where he's just mentally checked out. That stuff frustrates me, and I would be all over trading him if a team is willing to, overpay relative to his current value. Or the other situation where you may decide to move a guy like him is, and now it would take more than Camilo in this case, but if you're trying to make a trade for a guy like Bo Bichette, for this is an example, a guy that underperformed his last season in Toronto, maybe Doval is part of the package that goes back to them. Or if you're trying to trade for a big time bat somewhere else, maybe Camilo Doval is part of the package that's going back to them, whatever team that is. So I could see that as a situation where you might look to move Camilo. So, because in that case, by all means, he'd probably you'd be still getting something back. Obviously, you're getting a big bat or something like along those lines. And at that point, you can just live with that. And you'll probably have to trade Camilo, probably a prospect, a pretty good prospect, I'm sure. Like you're not going to just get Bichette back trading just Camilo and like Jack Choate or something like that. You're going to have to give up a good prospect along with Camilo, but it might mitigate some of the other cost, some of the other prospect haul that you might have to send over otherwise. So those are my thoughts on that. Tell me what you guys all think. We're going to go ahead and we'll be putting out some lives or a live on Friday. As I mentioned, we're going to be putting out a few other videos. Send over some questions if you have any topics you guys want us to cover on the live. But otherwise, follow me on X, TikTok, Instagram, all the stuff down below, and let me hear what you guys think. Talk to you next time.